The next speaker we have is my good friend Theresa. And Theresa, it's really cool having Theresa because I did put her on the spot about 2 months ago. So Theresa is a midwife and she teaches and supervises midwives and has been doing it for a very long time. And she also does a lot of research into hypnotherapy and creating her own stuff. So I put her on the spot and said, well, can you come and talk about what was it? Applications of hypnotherapy and maternity. And I didn't actually let her say no because I knew she was a tutor anyway. So, but I thought it would be cool having a lecture from, a midwife with all of that background of 30 years or whatever, and then seeing what we do, from that kind of place of being with the mums and doing it every day, all day, forever. Yeah. So I told her to beg her. No, like I said, you didn't have a choice to come and talk about, from her perspective, all of this cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take it
but
away.
Before I start, let's give Justine and Trish a huge clap for organising this. Because it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for them. So thank you guys. And so I'm Theresa. And this is the first time that I'm saying this out loud. So please bear with me. Right. So hypnotherapy and meditation in maternity care is a winning formula. And I'm going to start by asking all of you, what do we have in common? Well, stand up if you weren't born. And stand up if you were conceived. Stand up if you were conceived. Yes. Great. Awesome. Thank you. So it's safe to conclude that we were all born, right? That's statistically quite important, that 100% of us have experienced being born. And as Justine said, I'm a midwife and I did my master's in research. I don't really know how that happened, but I did. And I've also trained to be a hypnotherapist. And why that's important, it'll unwind as I calm down, is because any statistic that is 100% is quite attention grabbing, and so it should be. And given that all humans enter this world through the process of birth, I'd like you to consider the impact that this journey can have on both the mum and the baby and dad. Like, have you ever stopped to think about that? Yeah, yes, no, lots of mixed.
I'm thinking with this world of technology and AI, is that likely to change with you?
Well, we're going to go there today. So thanks for bringing that up. It's a fair comment. So we're going to explore in more depth today hypnotherapy and its application to maternity. And in particular, I'm going to be looking at the whys and the research that underpins it for us. All of this research is going to be available on, if you want it. So the world that I walk in, I work full-time as a midwife and I'm a clinical midwife educator at the hospital. And what I know about the world that I work in is that research is really important. You can't make big, broad, sweeping claims about anything without backing it up. And I appreciate lots of the presenters around in the last couple of days have done that. And I know the work that goes into it, but it's really important. And thank you. Thank you. That helps a lot. I always do this and I do settle down. But this is an educational style presentation and it's my birth story, my story about why I've created it. And as I've said, there's lots of science and research, which I hope will help dispel the reputation of woo-woo and take it into the world of wow, especially for my medical colleagues who I want them to also understand our language and our world and what we do so that it can come more into mainstream. Right, so I know that we've all heard birth stories, all of us, from our mums, from ourselves, from our sisters, from our friends, but how many of these stories are positive? Sadly, mostly they're not. And for so many reasons. Let's add to this that physiological birth, which is normal vaginal birth, unassisted, is decreasing globally. And caesarean sections are now at nearly over 40% of all births. That's for lots of reasons, and we're not going to go into the complex reasons that lie behind the statistics, but it's important. So the reason that I'm saying that is because birth has changed. Statistically, birth has changed as well, okay? So although birth's changed, the support systems that sit around birth haven't changed. And that's why I've created Mindshine Maternity. Ta-da! So this is a modern and accessible system to meet mamas and papas where they're at on their journey, no matter where they are in the world. And although I started with hypnobirthing, it soon grew into way more than hypnobirthing because I realized that the journey of birth isn't just about having a baby on that one day. It's the whole journey. And in midwifery, we talk about this a lot. We get perplexed with, everyone's really hung up on that one day, when for us, it's the whole journey that matters. So as I started, I'm very creative, and as I started creating Mindshine, I started seeing that I actually had to offer more than just that support for that one day. So that's what I've done, and we're going to kind of talk about how. So I've had 30 privileged years of walking alongside women, bedside, hands-on with them. So this doesn't come from an abstract theoretical space, it comes from the lived experience. So I guess it's safe to say that I'm a bit of an expert in pregnancy and birth and being with women. And while every mother, sister, aunt or friend has a really unique and valuable experience and perspective, the expertise of a midwife generally comes with a lot. It comes from years and years of experience, and same with any of our other health professionals who work in the world of birth. You don't get here with Dr. Google. I can assure you. And this is important because it is this lived experience that has, of supporting birth, that has forged the creation of Mindshine Maternity. It's in the tears and in the hardness and in the difficulties and in the being with women that this was created for our mamas. So it is knowledge-based, and I have leaned into my experience as a midwife, and I've joined it up with my love of hypnotherapy to create this program. So this system is a virtual holistic support system, and it combines various modalities, primarily hypnotherapy and meditation, and it's blended with specialised pregnancy coaching to empower our parents through their journey. And you can go online to mindshinematernity.com in the next month or so, because it's still being birthed. I'm having trouble crowning it. And you can find out more information on there. And a lot of it is video based as well. So there's not a whole lot of words to read. You can just watch short snippets of videos to see what it's all about. So it covers support for IVF and fertility, which is more and more common. Also hypnobirthing. I look at, and we're going to talk about birth trauma recovery and pregnancy anxiety, and we're going to look at the shadow side of birth a little bit today as well, because it's not just all fluffy bunnies and unicorns and nice babies. We've got another midwife in the room as well who can validate that with me. So grief support and healing from losing a baby or shock from unexpected outcomes is a reality of working in the world of birth as well. Also, I have developed specialist meditations, not medications, meditations for really busy, stressed new parents, like micro meditations for them to cope in those first few years of having a baby. And developed soundscapes as well. So I've developed these soundscapes for baby to listen to when mum's pregnant, and these contain frequencies and binaural beats. They're a bit of an upgrade from the Bach Beethoven that was quite popular back in the 80s. And these soundscapes not only work on in utero on brain development of the baby, but they create familiarity, and they can be played during labour or during the transition of when baby's first born or in those first few days, so that there's a sense of familiarity for bub and sometimes for mum if she's chosen to listen to them too. And parents can actually use these in utero ones on their phone or on speaker for sleep training for babies as well, because they're very used to hearing it and they've heard it throughout their gestation. And as I was creating this and talking to my colleagues about it and getting all enthusiastic and excited, they said to me, Theresa, what about us? Like, you've missed us out. We want to be involved. Do something for us as well. And I was like, oh yeah, fair call. Okay. Add something else to it. So the creation of Blue Sky Mind method was created for the medical professionals who work in the world of birth. So all of these things that I've just mentioned, I'm going to break down now in sections for you. So Mindshine is a modern method, and these programs have been developed to sit alongside any antenatal education. So they're not like traditional hypnobirth, which is about antenatal education. This is not that. And it is not just for physiological birth like traditional hypnobirth programs. They focus on a physiological normal vaginal birth. And I know that statistically that doesn't happen. So this is more for increasing a mum's resilience and helping her and dad connect better so that they go into labour feeling more prepared. So it is slightly different. I'm going to go into more detail soon about that for you. The reason that I'm telling you that is because this can confidently be applied to any birthing environment. So whether that's hospital, an induction, home births, a caesarean, an operative birth, or a planned hospital birth. No one misses out on the much needed support, and this method fits into anyone's philosophy. So you might have a free birther, a home birther, or someone who wants to have an planned caesarean. That's fine. This will fit into both of those. Whereas your more traditional hypnobirthing sets you up for a physiological normal birth and is more relaxation focused. So we'll get into a bit more depth about that shortly. I would like to just refocus again on the importance of trust, which is the basis, as we know, of all of our relationships. And that's why research is provided throughout this presentation. It's to support the claims that underpin Mindshine maternity. So hopefully that provides you with the reassurance and confidence in this approach as one of the gold standards of virtual maternity care, because I think this might be one of the first of its kind. So knowledge-based, experience-based and research-based. And I researched around the existing support, especially hypnotherapy or hypnobirthing for our birthing families. And I don't think there's been one created by a midwife at all, which I found really surprising given that we're the ones who are hands-on. The closest I found was the Leclerc method. And I think that was originally done by Michelle O'Dont. So I kind of thought, hey man, this is like, midwives are with women and that's our specialty. So I kind of wanted to leave a bit of a legacy for the younger midwives before me and for the birthing families in the world that actually came from within, not an abstract specialist or person who actually hasn't walked alongside and hasn't seen this work or not work like I have over many, many, many decades. So anyway, research definitely supports the use of hypnosis and meditation, and this presentation outlines only a snippet of the vast amount of research that's available. And I'm going to pay very special attention to the new science of epigenetics, because that's what I'm basing these programs on. primarily. So we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into that. So what's that got to do with pregnancy? Well, during pregnancy, the relationship between epigenetics and stress is really significant, as maternal stress can lead to epigenetic modifications that can affect fetal development and health. We're going to dive pretty deep into this. So stressful experiences during pregnancy, whether stemming from emotional, psychological or physical sources, can trigger changes in gene expression. And this may impact on a baby's brain development, their stress response systems, and their overall health outcomes once they're born. So research has shown that elevated stress levels are associated with increased risk of complications, like preterm birth, low birth weight, and potentially mental health issues in children. So understanding this connection highlights the importance of managing stress during pregnancy, as positive maternal experiences and stress reduction can contribute to healthier epigenetic profiles in developing babies, and ultimately fostering better long-term health and emotional resilience in them. So this program is different in that respect. It's not just focused on labour and birth. It is a longer, stronger, more effective process that's based primarily on epigenetic support. And this is all going to make a bit more sense as we progress. But please ask any questions as we go, especially if I start to not make sense. Because in my mind, this is all really clear, but I appreciate it might not be. So what these programs do, or the hypnobirthing ones, is they support stress prevention during pregnancy by offering tailored hypnotherapy and meditation techniques that promote relaxation, enhance emotional resilience, and foster a positive mind-body connection with mum, and ultimately contributes to healthier outcomes, especially the updated hypnobirth and IVF programs, which I'm going to go into. So in a world filled with information, it's crucial that any that we share is credible, evidence-based and grounded in science, especially if we want it to be taken seriously. So Mindshine Maternity hopefully bridges that gap between the intuitive wisdom of midwifery and the proven benefits of hypnotherapy, ensuring that women receive the best of both worlds. We're blending the art and the science together to deliver an innovative, safe and effective system, which is now going to be virtually available globally so no one misses out on having their own Mindshine moment. So looping back, we're all affected by the process of birth, and not one of us misses out just yet. Whole new conversation. So it kind of makes this presentation quite important and relevant to all of us as humans. And it matters because we live in a really fast-paced, robotic world where there is very little emotional support, especially for our pregnant mums. And there are staggering birth statistics, and they're not positive. And we have a rapid pace of life that isn't seeming to slow down, and we're hurtling towards technological growth that grows faster than a mushroom. And in this modern world, it's really hard for our birthing parents to take some time out for them, or just some time out from that hectic chaos. You know, a breath to consider what really matters. So Mindshine Maternity creates a purposeful space with this focus for connection and reconnection in the easiest, most convenient way possible, which is virtually. It helps parents to navigate the modern complexities of pregnancy and birth with an actual expert who does know what they're going through. And parents even have the option of accessing their own virtual midwife, which is me, if they need to increase their calm and confidence. And I'm just letting you know that there is going to be some training available, and I'm going to get to that shortly too. So we're already aware of the dangerous effects of smoking, drinking, and alcohol during pregnancy, right? Pretty well known. But I'm going to take this one step further and suggest that now there is enough evidence to show that stress in pregnancy also holds dangers. Different outcomes, but it also holds dangers, and we're going to go into that in a bit more. So let's look at the science of pregnancy, the physiological changes that happen, and how that affects brain function. So during pregnancy, you have increased neuroplasticity, where the brain becomes more adaptable. It's amazing. Nature is amazing. And this makes it an ideal time for therapeutic interventions, especially hypnotherapy and meditation. There are hormonal shifts, so you have oxytocin, progesterone, and differing amounts of cortisol, and these influence emotional regulation and stress responses in mums at very different levels to non-pregnancy. So nature's pretty amazing how it sets a pregnant woman up to be more receptive to hypnotherapy and meditation. And there's more. So the heightened suggestibility of the pregnant brain is also due to increased theta brainwaves. And this makes the brain also, again, more receptive to hypnotherapy, making our modality much more efficient and much more effective for our birthing population. So Michel O'Donnell's research and his work on the Primal Health Research Database emphasises the importance of reducing stress during pregnancy for optimal fetal programming, along with many other reputable clinicians like him who support and elaborate on this recommendation. So hold your breath because we're going to dive a little bit deeper. Theta brainwaves and receptivity during pregnancy. So theta brainwaves are the gateway to hypnotherapy. And what are theta brainwaves? Theta waves are between 4 and 8 hertz and are associated with deep relaxation, creativity, and access to the subconscious mind. They dominate during light sleep, deep meditation, and importantly, during hypnosis. So why these matter in pregnancy? Pregnant women naturally experience increased theta activity due to their hormonal changes and being in a heightened emotional sensitivity state, which is pretty fantastic. And this makes them, again, more receptive to hypnotherapy as theta waves facilitate access to the subconscious mind. A 2018 study found that pregnant women in a theta dominant state were more responsive to the relaxation techniques and positive suggestion that hypnotherapy offers them. So what about brainwave patterns and adaptability during pregnancy? Why does the brain become more adaptable? So neuroplasticity in pregnancy. So pregnancy triggers significant changes in the actual brain. And not just changes, it's the structure and the function. And this phenomenon is known as maternal brain remodeling. So the brain prunes unused neural connections and strengthens those related to caregiving, empathy, and emotional regulation. I think we should clap for how wonderfully clever Mother Nature is. And a 2016 study found that pregnancy leads to long-lasting changes in grey matter and brain volume and enhancing adaptability and emotional resilience as the brain prepares you for motherhood. So that's pretty cool. So hormonal shifts that build neuroplasticity. Oxytocin, which we all know is the love hormone, this promotes bonding and relaxation, enhancing receptivity to positive suggestion of hypnosis. And yeah, it's the love hormone. So we say what gets you into being pregnant gets you out of being pregnant as well. So we're always all about oxytocin. Progesterone is another hormone. So progesterone is excreted to maintain a pregnancy, and the byproduct as well is that it calms the nervous system and it reduces anxiety, even though we have a very anxious population of birthing women in today's day and age. Progesterone does create a fertile ground for hypnotherapy, and this is the hormone, like I said, that maintains pregnancy. You also have estrogen, which boosts mood and cognitive flexibility, and it supports the neuroplasticity. So the first program that we're going to look at that's been created is called Blossom, and that's hypnotherapy for fertility and IVF. We've got increasing amounts of parents struggling with fertility. And IVF is emotionally and physically taxing. It has high stress levels, which can impact on success rates. We'll go into that in a little bit. So this roller coaster of hope, courage, and tears can hopefully be supported, and Blossom or hypnotherapy for fertility and IVF hopefully will help result in a long, healthy pregnancy for these mamas. And how hypnotherapy helps with IVF is it can reduce stress and anxiety, which research shows can actually improve implantation rates. Really really important. It also enhances the mind-body connection and promotes relaxation, which does affect the hormonal balance, which does affect conception and maintaining a pregnancy. So hypnotherapy can provide tools to cope with the ups and downs of the constant appointments and that good old roller coaster for the woman and the mums and the dads who go through this process. So a randomised control trial, and a randomised control trial is the gold standard of testing research in the medical world. A 2006 randomised control trial found that hypnotherapy during embryo transfer increased pregnancy rates by 32%. Impressive. I know. So cool. And Bruce Lipton's epigenetic research shows how stress reduction can positively influence gene expression, which is also pretty relevant to IVF as well. So the Mindshine approach sits very safely alongside any fertility treatments and combines hypnotherapy with guided meditations to create a calm, hopeful mindset for parents and increasing, hopefully, those implantation rates for them. And there's also some extra bonuses for parents too, and you can find out all about that once the website's properly birthed and the baby's dry. So we have heard the word stress a few times now, so let's explore this further in a brief overview. So how hypnotherapy prevents and mitigates stress overall? Well, it's a low-cost, high-impact solution. And hypnotherapy's role can reduce cortisol levels by promoting deep relaxation and activating the parasympathetic nervous system. It can also reprogram negative thought patterns, reducing anxiety and fear in a gentle, non-invasive way that can be repeated with practice for reinforcement. It also enhances the release of oxytocin, creating a positive emotional state for mum, dad, and baby that can also be self-guided and again reinforced with practice. And this increases connection with supported partners as well along the way, so they feel equally as valued in the journey. Chemical cocktails and the placenta. So hypnotherapy helps ensure that the chemicals crossing the placenta are beneficial. So more oxytocin and endorphins rather than harmful cortisol that can build up. So research, a 2013 study found that hypnotherapy significantly overall reduced stress and improved birth outcomes. And a 2020 study, which is very recent, showed that hypnotherapy during pregnancy improved maternal mental health and infant neurodevelopment. We're going to go into what that is shortly. So let's talk about hypnobirthing, the next program I created. I just want to begin by saying that not all hypnobirth is created the same. This is a modern method, which is now a little bit more highly evolved. As I was developing this started out just for the woman that I worked with, what I saw is there was two distinctly different types of people and two distinctly different types of needs. And one size didn't fit all. And, you know, this is true for us as people, right? One size doesn't fit all. So I was like, how am I gonna do this? How can they have all of these benefits, which I know are gonna work for them, and the epigenetic benefits, but fit different personality styles? So I had to create two. So for the left-brained people, I've created something called Hypnobirth But Better. Now this is a little bit of a parody on traditional hypnobirth, but it's a little bit better because it's a little bit longer, it involves dad a bit more, and it's more based on epigenetic research, not just the labour and the birth, although that is part of it as well. That's more for your factual, what's it going to do, how much is it going to cost, where is it going to be, what's the numbers, and I just want to do it at this time for this blah, 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 blah. So you're more left-brained. And for your more right-brained, so this is kind of the world that I like the most, I created Holistic Hypnobirth. And this is the one that we're going to be looking at doing some training on if you're interested. But that's in the postnatal time frame. We're still birthing this baby. So Holistic Hypnobirth is also called Sacred Mama Rising, and that is a lot more metaphysically focused. So this is for the women who are wanting the ancestral healing, the womb cleaning, the birth myth dispelling, the pre-birth connection, the partnership, the love connection. What else is in that? We go through chakra cleansing. We go through a lot more around embedding the hypnotic pain triggers for the partner to support mum during birth, because what I've seen often is mums feel very alone. Even when they've done hypnobirth, they feel really alone, and dads feel very like, I don't know what to do. So I've tried to empower mums and dads together so they can go into labour and birth feeling cohesive, and mum doesn't need to feel all alone and have a stranger support her in labour, like her partner can do that with her and for her. So that's what the holistic hypnobirth is all about. So one size doesn't fit all. People see birth from different lenses, and these two models accommodate for that. But what is hypnobirthing? Well, we know that it's a time-tested model that mums already trust, and it's where you can use self-hypnosis, breathing techniques and visualization. And it's an empowerment technique that we know works well. And it works well because it reduces the fear and the tension, which can interfere in the natural birthing process, and it promotes the release of oxytocin, which is that love hormone, which is essential for labour progression, right? And one of my idols is Ina May Gaskin, and she did some work which demonstrated that a calm, supportive environment does indeed reduce the need for medical interventions. And a 2015 study found that hypnobirthing in particular reduced the need for pain relief and shortened the duration of labour, which we all want, don't we, ladies? So Mindshine's hypnobirthing philosophy is to empower mums to trust their bodies and embrace birth as a natural, positive process. However, why is it different? Now the focus is more on the developing baby and creating a calm environment that supports healthy emotional development in line with epigenetics. So it's a whole new level of hypnobirthing, longer, stronger, more effective. So now it's a 10-week program, because you need the time to practice. You don't go into a marathon without practice. You know, you can't do 2 hypnobirth sessions and expect it to work in labour, and I'm telling you it doesn't. This is a practice thing. So it's a 10-week program, and it's been beefed out for a reason, and it's also now way more inclusive of dad too. So fathers feel more included in this. Yeah, so unlike traditional hypnobirth, this modern method is a little bit more focused on the journey and not just the labour, the day of the labour. So, statistics. Based on birth statistics, 1 in 3 births ends up being a caesarean. Yeah. It's quite staggering, isn't it? So what this means is that even though we're living in a modern age, our birth statistics are a little bit staggering. And I have tried to mitigate women's feelings of failure, shame, not being good enough with these programs that I've created, because I feel like if they don't have this really beautiful, natural, normal birth, they feel like they've done something wrong. And these programs are developed for whatever the outcome. You're going to be okay no matter what. So they're really working on building up someone's resilience so they'll be okay no matter what unfolds for them. Yeah.
With choice, or because medically?
There's loads and loads of complex reasons why. Well, not just medical, there's loads of reasons why, and that's like very deep to get into. We have what's called a cascade of intervention. Our birthing population's changed. You know, we have 3rd and 4th generation caesareans now, which is fine. But what that means, for lack of better words, is that we've almost interfered a little bit with the birthing population. So now birth isn't physiologically normal anymore. It's really changed. So we need to be able to support women in that still, because every woman still deserves to have her, you know, her birthing and her choices, yeah. but they are coming away. So we're going to talk about the stats around that shortly. They're coming away feeling like they've failed. So I'm trying to set them up to feel like it's not a failure. You know, it's sometimes through no fault of their own that they end up being one of those statistics. So moving along, epigenetics. Pregnancy and a developing baby is a journey through science and metaphysics from womb to world. So pregnancy is a transformative journey, not just for mum, but for dad and for the developing baby. And this modern science, which we're going to go into some more, has revealed how deeply interconnected mum's emotional and physical state are with the baby's development. So combined with insights from experts like Gabor Mate and Bruce Lipton, as well as metaphysical perspectives, we're going to look at having a better understanding on how to nurture a healthy emotional and physiological blueprint for the next generation. So we're going to talk about the baby's developing nervous system now and the emotional blueprint. So the maternal influence on the baby's nervous system. So the baby's nervous system is incredibly absorbent during pregnancy. So how many of you have had children? Yep, lots of us. Cool, just so I can see. So their nervous system is really absorbent during pregnancy, and it can be shaped by mum's emotional state and environment. And research shows us that positive emotions and relaxation during pregnancy create a foundation for healthy emotional regulation in a child. And conversely, chronic stress, and let's think about today's day and age, it's really stressful. Imagine being a young parent these days with the way the world is. That would be stressful in and of itself, right? It's stressful just to think about it for them. So chronic stress can disrupt this delicate process and lead to long-term consequences. So the baby's emotional blueprint. The prenatal environment acts as a training ground for the baby's stress response and emotional regulation, and there's some amazing research that sits around this. And studies have shown that maternal stress can alter the development of key brain regions like the hippocampus and the amygdala, which govern memory and emotion and stress responses. So a 2010 study found that elevated maternal cortisol levels during pregnancy were associated with poorer cognitive outcomes in children. And from a metaphysical perspective, beyond science, metaphysical perspectives, such as those explored by Dolores Cannon, suggest that babies are deeply influenced by their prenatal environment. And some adults undergoing past life regression or in utero memory recall having reported hearing their parents' conversations. That's wild. And they also report feeling emotions while in the womb. I know, it's not just when they're born, it's while we're growing them. That's why this work is really, really important and kind of time to be recognised. So this highlights a profound, almost mystical connection, I guess that's how I like to see it, between mum and baby. So the holistic hypnobirth program, which I'm going to be offering some training in a little later down the track, dives into this connection for those of you who have an interest in the more metaphysical side of birth. So let's look at one of my idols, Gabor Mate. Is it Gabor Mate? What is it? Gabor. Gabor? Zaza Gabor? Was that her name?
Yes.
Let's call him Gabor Mate. That might get his attention. Gabor Mate. So Gabor Mate's work emphasises that stress is not just an emotional experience, that it has profound physiological effects, especially during pregnancy, and that chronic stress disrupts the body's natural balance, leading to hormonal imbalances, inflammation, and impaired immune function. Now, in relation to maternal stress and bubba, when a pregnant woman experiences chronic stress, according to old mate, excess cortisol can cross the placenta and affect the developing fetus. So high cortisol levels in mum and in baby can impair the development of that baby's brain, particularly the hippocampus and amygdala, which regulates emotions and stress responses. So his research and his work highlights how early life stress, including prenatal stress, can program the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, so the glandular axis, setting the stage for long-term stress sensitivity. So we can wire our babies, and I think I might have done that with one of mine. So the long-term consequences of this is that children exposed to high levels of prenatal stress are more susceptible to anxiety, depression, and ADHD. So Old Mate emphasises that parental stress post-birth as well continues to impact on a child's development, affecting bonding and attachment, plus their neurodevelopment can be negatively affected too. And some studies have even shown that even smiles can be delayed in those mums who have experienced or are still having ongoing stress. So I would ask if in today's modern world there's actually such a thing as minimal stress. But with these programs, we try to mitigate that as much as we possibly can in a very conscious, focused way. So Bruce Lipton is another one of my icons, and he talks extensively about epigenetics and pregnancy. So I got a lot of my inspiration from these guys. So Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking work on epigenetics reveals that genes are not our destiny, that environmental factors, including stress, can influence gene expression. So the prenatal environment is one of the most critical periods for epigenetic programming. Isn't that amazing? And the genes can be activated by stress response in mum. So stress and gene expression. Chronic stress during pregnancy can lead to the epigenetic changes that can switch off beneficial genes and switch on harmful ones. For example, stress can activate genes associated with inflammation and impair those involved in brain development. Now, there's some research from 1944 to 1945 called the Dutch Hunger Winter Study, and it showed that maternal starvation, by today's terminology, that could just be like not eating properly, because, our diets aren't great because lots of reasons. But they found from this study that it led to epigenetic changes, like longitudinal study, 20-year study, led to epigenetic changes in babies, increasing their risk of metabolic and mental health disorders. And
when I was, my mum was pregnant with
Yeah,
me, my
yeah.
egg was already inside.
Yeah.
Some of this science is
It's amazing.
If your grandmother was under undue stress, again, you talk about, especially with the hunger thing, going back
Yeah.
generations, they had no food.
Yeah.
Does have that effect on the future generations.
Yeah.
down the line. It's fascinating.
That's why the holistic hypnobirth program is quite good, because we can do ancestral healing and look at that kind of thing. But I read some research in the last week about sperm and men going through stress. It can alter the way that sperm functions as well. So it's huge. And a 2017 study found that maternal stress during pregnancy altered DNA methylation patterns in fetuses, impacting also on long-term health outcomes. So Lipton emphasises as well, he emphasises the mind-body connection, and that he says that the mum's thoughts and emotions can directly influence a baby's development. So positive emotions and relaxations can promote the expression of genes associated with health and resilience, which is what these programs aim to do, while stress can do the opposite. So we're going to outline that now. So if we integrate Marte and Lipton's insights and unify it together to approach stress and epigenetics and pregnancy, both Marte and Lipton emphasise that stress during pregnancy is not just a temporary issue, like we kind of want to think it is. What we know now is it has potential lifelong consequences for the child. And I don't think this is actually been addressed so forwardly. I might get lots of shit for it. Oh gosh.
I think certainly about it, which is really good.
Alrighty, so let me there's so much more research here, and I could probably talk for a lot longer. So we try to address prenatal stress with innovative hypnobirthing and sound therapy. There's also some postnatal support that comes in a program called Peaceful Pause for parents. I'm not going to go into the research for that now, and I'm hurrying along. I really wanted to talk to the shadow side of birth. I'm going to throw a statistic out there. So stress, anxiety and trauma during pregnancy and birth can lead to long-term mental health challenges, not just in baby, but in mum as well. So postpartum depression and PTSD are rampant. And unfortunately, the number one cause of mortality in the postpartum now is suicide. So hypnotherapy and meditation offer tools to manage stress, reduce fear, and create a more positive, empowering birthing experience. So let me just get to shadow side. So there is a healing suite within Mindshine Maternity, and it includes something called hypnobirth healing, and this is the healing path for birth trauma. This isn't a repeatable program. It's something that people would come to me specifically for, because women want to be understood. They want to know that you know what they've been through. And with 30 years in the game, I've certainly held a lot of hands and experienced trauma alongside a lot of the birthing families that I deal with. So 1 in 3 women report suffering the effects of birth trauma, and this can affect a woman years and years and years later. Women in rest homes with Alzheimer's recall their birth trauma. So it can have impact on your parenting, your happiness and your relationship. Really important that we treat it, and we treat it sensitively and we treat it well. So that's hypno birth healing. Also within the shadow side of birth, I've created a program called Hypno Heart Space. Now, some women don't go home with a baby in their arms, and this impacts on mothers and fathers. So Hypno Heart Space, again, that isn't a repeatable program either, but I do open a space for helping women with healing, and we do have a little bit of a metaphysical perspective on that. It's usually a minimum of 3 for providing a space. So it's not a re-traumatizing event. We don't go back to the sensitizing event. We deal with the emotions as they're coming up and what the impacts are in the body, because these stress responses get stuck in women's bodies and they relive and they relive and they relive. So it's about creating a space to process difficult emotions so that that healing can begin. I am going to wind up on the hypnotherapy with our birthing families by saying the power of hypnotherapy can really heal these wounds of trauma and grief, as well as creating a bright future for our mums, families, and generations to come. It can have a ripple effect right out, and I don't have the time to go into that right now. I'll get Susie to help me get that into a proper presentation at some point. Susie? The last thing I wanted to talk about was the completion of Mindshine Maternity, and it was in the form of a tribute, and it was a tribute to the health professionals who provide care for our birthing families, the brave, strong and courageous people who support birth daily, because it is not an easy space to be in. You only need to look around New Zealand and see that we haven't got obstetricians, because they're not lasting very long, because it's a really difficult profession to be in, and our midwives are suffering as well. You know, your midwife is philosophically completely different to the midwifery philosophy is not the medical philosophy, but they're expected to work together, and this can cause a lot of moral injury in midwives who have to support women in that space, because now we know what the birth statistics are. They're not all just birthing at home, right? So this can create a lot of conflict and burnout for myself and my colleagues. So that's why I created Blue Sky Mind method, and it uses methods within it. I've used Vipassana techniques, NDSR and Summer Silver's techniques. With this program in particular, I've had to be very, very careful, because these are my medical professional colleagues who want everything to be, they're very A-type usually, love them to pieces, but they need to know that it's actually, how does it work, why does it work, and where's the research? So there's pages and pages and pages of research for any of them who want it. I have a son who's one of these doctors, so I understand from his perspective. But in a nutshell, 50% of health professionals report burnout, exhaustion, depersonalisation, and reduced personal accomplishment. 1 in 3 doctors experience depression during their career, yet very few reach out for help. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want talk therapy. They just want something that's going to help them sleep, something that's going to help them process. So I've created some neuro resets for them and for the midwives. This is very early days, but what it's going to do is work on nervous system dysregulation, neuroendocrine dysregulation, and the effects of cortisol overload. So the long-term effects of stress are really known, but why meditation works for high stress roles is because of the brainwave changes that we can create, increasing alpha theta brainwaves, and we can also reduce stress, improve focus, and we can reduce cortisol, whereby reducing the physiological impact of the stress that our professional colleagues have to go through every single day with supporting our birthing population. And a 2014 meta-analysis, which is where they look at all of the research and put it all together into one, found that mindfulness meditation significantly reduced cortisol levels in high stress populations, such as our birthing professionals. Another study in 2018, which is just recently, so it's important when we are quoting research that it is current, not too old. So this current study found that 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation, like what Blue Sky Mind method offers, increased brain density in the regions linked to emotional control and self-awareness. So that's pretty cool. Whole lot more blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It is on here. We just won't go into it today. There is a little bit of talk around the reason why it might appear that we've got really high suicide rates compared to anywhere else, but we've also got a highly controllable population that can be looked at really accurately, much more than other much bigger countries. So that means that our research is able to be generalised to populations and we can see it much more clearly. So I feel like we just accurately look at our research, and I don't know that the rest of the world has such an accurate ability. Maybe Ireland might, Japan might. Yeah, again, about the same size. So yeah, that's the methodologies of research. So that's what makes the statistics valid or not. So I'm just going to summarize that pregnancy and birth are profoundly physiological and psychological, and these experiences affect all of us in our life. So it absolutely matters. Birth matters, and there is a ripple effect from birth. So why did I create this? I've seen really a lot of emotionally unprepared women and men coming into birth, and the resulting birth trauma, and some of the statistics that I've read out to you today, as you can see, are staggering. The birth statistics, 1 in 3 are now cesarean sections. There's a lot of trauma around birth, even going into birth. So we can safely say that birth has changed. So we needed to change the mechanisms that sit alongside birth, and hypnotherapy is one of the mechanisms that's low cost, high impact, and does work, and research supports that. So I started because I wondered, how can I prepare these birthing families for the unknown? How do you prepare someone for the unknown? I can't promise them, and I certainly don't see the results. The results that I see are that women aren't prepared, is all I can say about that. So I wondered how to build a more of a resilient mindset in our mums and our dads to try and reduce that trauma and try and impact on that 1 in 3 PND, PTSD, suicide statistic. And basically what I thought was the resilience mindset and emphasising that the journey matters. It's not just the labour and birth. It's not a pass or fail. It's the whole journey. It's holistic. So that's how this came to be. And I've created it virtually because I wanted it to be easy to access professional experience and research-based support. it's really difficult to find somebody who actually has the lived experience to back up all of the that it's going to be okay. And I know what you mean, you know, like women want to be seen and they want to be heard. So I tried to create something that gives them access to a professional no matter where they are in the world. And basically it's because birth matters. So yeah, so thanks for listening.